Hello there, and welcome back to my ticket stubs, Train Dreams, and this is a very special movie to me, Avatar Fire and Ash. It's visually stunning, and this is probably the most boring Avatar movie that I've seen, the most underwhelming Avatar movie I've seen. Iron Lung, one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and now I think one of my most favorite movies of the year. So let's start off here with Marty Supreme, coming out with its same frenetic and chaotic energy that Safdie Brothers movies are very known for. Lots of drama, lots of different confrontations, played very well by Timothée Chalamet, one of his best performances. And the chaotic energy works very well to show this very self-centered and very ambitious character, this Marty character, working very hard to get into the table tennis championships, hustling his way around relationships, hustling his way around different deals with different kinds of people, his friends and family, trying to travel the world and conquer different table tennis games, different matchups to try to win his way up through the ranks and everything, and all the different kinds of conflict and drama that happens. And I was pleasantly surprised to see famous magician Penn Jillette show up in the opening credits. This might be his first movie. I don't know if he's done any non-magic related movies prior to this, but it was crazy to see him come up in the opening credits. Then he finally comes up about halfway through the movie as this homeowner who happens to have the dog that Marty and his crew are trying to look for, this dog that belongs to another important person. Dog ran away. They finally track down this house where the dog might be, and here's Penn Jillette, this very tall farmer-looking guy. Tense confrontation that happens between Marty and Penn Jillette's character. Penn Jillette in this, he did a pretty good job. It was pretty cool to see him in a movie like this. Next on to a couple Netflix movies here, hence the sticky notes with Train Dreams. Oscar-nominated movie, including Best Picture in 3 other categories. And this is a very special movie to me, as I believe this movie is based mostly in my home state of Washington here, and it was filmed in a couple of different places here in my home state of Washington, including here in Spokane, in different parts of Spokane, the downtown area. And I happen to be connected, I'm in a community of local filmmakers called We Filmmakers of Eastern Washington, We, F-E-W. And this is a community of filmmakers who we've connected with and we share projects with and share kind of tips and tricks, educate each other on filmmaking. We share different projects of short films, feature films that did that. There are different kinds of collaboration can happen in this community. And some or most of this We community have worked on this Train Dreams project. I was brought into the We community, connected with some people, got to know some people, and the different projects that people were working on. Then I kept hearing Train Dreams. I kept hearing that title, and I kept hearing, ooh, this ominous movie, if you will, this ominous movie, so to speak, that all these people worked on. They were telling all kinds of crazy stories about all the different challenges going on productions, and this movie turned out really, really well. It has some pretty well-known name actors on this, starring Joel Edgerton, as well as Felicity Jones and William H. Macy. Joel Edgerton does a wonderful job, not only carrying the movie and carrying the narrative of this movie forward, but also carrying the deep emotional journey that this character goes on, as he's this laborer, this lumberjack who cuts down trees out in the field, brings lumber back, builds up buildings, and builds up this cabin for his wonderful wife, played by Felicity Jones, has a little girl with her, and then as Edgerton's character Robert is out doing lumberjack work, a natural disaster kind of strikes around the area that he suspects he lives in, and he's hit with a sudden emotional tragedy. And the rest of the movie, Edgerton is carrying the emotional weight of loneliness, of loss, of how does he carry on with himself forward. America and jobs and things are changing around him as decades pass, as all the years pass in America with advances in technology and different labor work. Things are changing around him, his life and work is changing around him, trying to pick up the pieces, maybe find bits and pieces of his family, kind of the loneliness and loss and the emotional weight that Edgerton is carrying. But this is a character study, this is a character drama. It's not like this character is trying to accomplish something greater in life or whatever. This is studying more down on this Robert lumberjack laborer character. It has these nice outdoorsy elements going on in the story, so some very nice deep emotional moments that this character is going through, trying to pick up the pieces, move forward with his life. Felicity Jones is wonderful as the wife and the motherly character. There's a really good supporting cast in here as the different lumberjack workers that Joel Edgerton works with. A very nice and kind of funny and cool crew that Edgerton's character works with here. And William H. Macy is always a wonderful character, spared for maybe some more dramatic roles that he's played in like Shameless and some other series like that. But William H. Macy, I think, tends to play some of the quippy, quirky, and chatty type of characters, like he plays in Jurassic Park 3, one role that comes to mind, but he plays kind of this chatty and also kind of quippy lumberjack kind of characters. And I think my choice for best cinematography for the Oscars, I think even compared to the other nominees, like Sinners has fantastic cinematography as well, some really nice nature in this movie, and it just felt nice and realistic. Nice use of framing, lenses, and camera work here, some very nice static shots of people just talking or establishing this character's running into this character, some nice kind of Wes Anderson-esque kind of static and centered shots in this movie, so some very nice camera work in this. I felt very good about how everything looked in here. Moving on to the next Netflix movie with the third installment of Wake Up Dead Man. I really like the previous two Knives Out installments from Rian Johnson. These are really cool whodunit type of movies. They're also very fun with some really intriguing mystery and very intricate storylines and character arcs and character developments and mystery development going on in these two movies. I would say this is so far kind of my least favorite of the three installments I have so far. I think I like the previous two movies better. I don't know. Wake Up Dead Man felt maybe a little bit too convoluted. I think this is the weakest ensemble cast that I've seen. And I've kind of been thinking about how much of a role the ensemble cast, I think, plays in these Knives Out movies. Obviously, you have the classic original cast of the first Knives Out movie, Michael Shannon, Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, and many other important big names. I just didn't care that much. I think maybe the cast was okay. This had Jeremy Renner in the ensemble cast. More so the characters, I think, were the weakest points in this film. Didn't really stand out that much, didn't really grab that much intrigue or interest in me. This, again, has the one character who's social media obsessed or savvy, and it's getting rather annoying and very aggravating, as this has one character who I believe is a failed politician but is now falling back onto social media, particularly with YouTube, particularly with recording more so private and dramatic and controversial moments with people, and then editing those videos down into a very catchy and clickbaity type of videos that he keeps posting online. I think Rian Johnson is doing the social media savvy and the social media headlines bit trope in these movies a little bit too much. Really needs to ease back on that. I didn't mind kind of that kid millennial character doing it in Knives Out. He only did a couple of times, I think. There were some Google or social media mentions in that movie, but it was pretty heavy-handed in this movie, and that was getting very annoying, and that trope, I think, really needs to settle down here. Though the reveals were interesting, the movie is a bit long, and there are a few places where I felt like the movie could wrap itself up, the reveals could start to wrap itself up in an interesting way, but the movie did kept running and running. A couple of other reveals kept running and running. Though Wake Up Dead Man, for me, feels like kind of the weakest in the entry of Knives Out movies. This is just 3 movies in, but I'm still very eager to see what else Rian Johnson does, and I'm eager to see the next Knives Out mystery that Rian Johnson comes out with. And next up with Avatar Fire and Ash. Avatar Fire and Ash is visually stunning. Some very cool visual effects, some really cool compositing, real aspects of actors into the visual effects environment, some very cool action sequences in this as well. So really cool visual effects with the water again, with the way of the water, the ocean effects and the creature effects, some very cool science fiction fantasy biology of how the biology of the plants in the Avatar. And this is probably the most boring Avatar movie that I've seen, the most underwhelming Avatar movie I've seen, and I think I'm very much finished with the Avatar movies from here. I guess what else can you ask for from an Avatar sequel, except I would ask for stronger writing and much more invigorated writing, some nuance in here, because this just felt like a very underwhelming movie. I was getting bored about halfway into the movie. I was going into this movie curious and excited. I'm excited to see what cool visual effects stuff is going on in this. Some pretty cool interactions with the Fire Tribe. I thought it would be much more about Fire Tribe stuff. I thought it'd be being Fire and Ash. Less about it's. I didn't realize this was Way of the Water Part 2. This felt much more like a Way of the Water Part 2 since it was significantly more about the Way of the Water tribe in here. I was expecting maybe moving on to this Fire Tribe, moving forward into this Fire Tribe, but man, just an underwhelming movie and rather boring on the screenplay and screenwriting fronts. James Cameron, what's going on? I kind of feel like Avatar is killing or squinching James Cameron's screenwriting skills. I mean, maybe you can argue that his earlier movies like Terminator, Titanic, more or less, he probably showed more screenwriting abilities and screenwriting nuances and skills that he had earlier in his career. Avatar is now just feeling very, very basic. This is feeling like kind of a basic screenwriting 101 family movie. These are family movies with PG-13 language, including one F-bomb in this case. Just feeling like a family movie, just nice and easy family dialogue. Sometimes the characters will discover things and they're like, okay, all right, we discovered that thing. High five. Yeah, let's take 2 minutes to celebrate this very basic thing before we move on. Okay, all right, let's move on with the story. I know this is, 3 hours and 15 minutes or so of James Cameron just writing whatever he wants. This just felt like same old Avatar, the same old kind of sequels that we've experienced from the previous movies, the same kind of themes of, this is continuing the same kind of themes that Avatar is all about of environmentalism, the military trying to get into this new land to extract resources, that it doesn't care how it impacts the species or how it impacts the environment that is invading. Some pretty nice themes of family loyalty and family ties and family standing up against oppression, up against an enemy, up against the military that's trying to bog down on the community. So some pretty nice themes of standing up for your community, communalism, family ties and connections and trust, and all those wonderful things in the movie. Those have been done in other movies, and those themes have been done in these movies still. And I'm sure James Cameron is going to keep doing that sort of thing in the next 1 or 2 movies that are to come. Just underwhelming, kind of a same old next sequel. Not much new here. Alright, and out of the way too boring and way too expensive into the much less costly and much more exciting, we have Iron Lung from the Markiplier. Saw it first myself, then saw it again with my wife here. So I have actually been following and watching Markiplier since about 2014, 2015 or so. He was kind of one of the top 3 YouTube gamers who I didn't really watch that much, kind of like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye. I just didn't watch those big creators for a long time while I was watching YouTube. And then my brother actually put on some Markiplier on the TV, like, oh, here's this guy, here's this big gamer guy who I just don't watch that much. We were watching Markiplier's Try Not to Laugh videos together, and those videos actually turned out very entertaining and very funny to me. As cheesy as Markiplier definitely sees that series now, I had a really good time watching those original Try Not to Laugh videos. Got really into it. They're very entertaining. Mark seemed like a very entertaining and genuine type of guy. Then I started watching more of Mark's content. His gameplay videos are very fun. So this is an adaptation of a horror indie video game of the same name that was made in like the early 2000s, 2010 to 2015 era. Markiplier did a few gameplays of the video game, obviously, which thus inspired the adaptation. And it's a pretty simple video game of your avatar, your character is locked into this submersible that is then plunged into this ocean of blood, this literal ocean of human blood, as it's detailed in the video game and in the movie, on kind of this remote moon out in the middle of somewhere in space after the quiet rapture, as it's called, where most of the stars and planets and most of the things in the universe is suddenly gone. Really, the movie is centered on where this character that Markiplier plays, named Simon, kind of comes from, where he was come from, that he's a convict, that he is being accused from some crimes that he was kind of involved in kind of previous to the movie, and he was locked into this submersible, submerged into this mysterious ocean, this mysterious blood ocean on this moon, to look for artifacts, kind of keep track of this map, to kind of move and steer this underwater blood ocean submersible underground, the Iron Lung as it's dubbed, with this submarine. This is a pretty crazy psychological thriller. I'm really thrilled with some of the cool visual and psychological stuff going on in the movie, some flashbacks to some background story that happened to Mark's character, his interactions with some different voices around him, the voice coming in on the radio. So some really cool psychological stuff going on in this movie. One of my most anticipated movies of the year, and now I think one of my most favorite movies of the year. Very awesome writing, directing, and performance from Markiplier playing this convict named Simon, who's going through the emotional and existential roller coaster throughout the movie as he's trapped in this submersible. Okay, how do I steer this submersible around? What am I supposed to do? He's discovering some weird things, relaying information to the radio, discovering skeletons and other weird creatures and anomalies are happening and moving around him. He's trying to communicate different discoveries, and what is he supposed to do? What is his mission? Why is he locked up? Why is he being quote-unquote convicted of crimes that he's not actually connected to? Really awesome technical work in this. Sound design worked really, really well. You're in with Simon, you're in with Markiplier inside the submersible, so you're hearing all the stuff going on around the submarine, creatures or other mysterious things happening around the submarine. There's some really cool tracking shots with the cinematography where Mark is hearing something and you're hearing something moving around you. Mark is looking around and the camera kind of tracks up against the wall, or the camera tracks up this way, up against the submersible. On set, I don't know what necessarily could have been going on set. Maybe it did have speakers of some primitive sounds that the camera's supposed to be tracking, or maybe the cinematographer is being a bit of an actor himself, tracking with some sound along the side of the wall, along the side of the submersible, and post-production filling in the sounds. So the cinematography did a great job, not only doing some really interesting and neon shots around the submersible and kind of plunging into the weird angles and the weirdness that you are feeling with Simon, that you are feeling and seeing with Simon, that some weird things are going on, but the camera is also tracking around and like staying with Mark as he is reacting to things rocking around the submarine, sounds moving around the submarine, things that are largely being done in post-production, but the camera is also reacting to it. Mark is reacting to stuff around the submarine, and the camera is reacting with Markiplier. So some really cool tandem play and some really cool technical teamwork going on between Mark and the camera work. Really great visual effects, some really great compositing and seamlessness between what's visual effects and what's not. Some really cool practical effects of some, well, this movie obviously breaks the record of most blood used in the production, like 40 or 80,000 gallons or so of not like, I don't think it's real blood, but like fake pig blood or something like that. Some prosthetic artificial blood that is filled in to the submersible that Mark the character interacts with. But some really cool practical effects I think that are going on with some skin defects and details that happen to the character, and there's like venous and artery blood piping stuff that starts to crawl its way into the submersible as the movie goes on. And then there's some hallucinatory and out-of-body experiences that the character has that I can't really tell if Mark was like, he was probably in front of a green screen of some sort, but then Mark has these out-of-body cosmic experiences where he's then seeing these great cosmic creature horrors going on around him. There are clearly visual effects, but just really well put in there, and the crazy atmosphere and visions that this character has were very convincing and very filled in with the post-production. And Markiplier definitely talked a lot about a lot of crazy visual effects work that he was trying to work around and figure out. Everything turned out fantastic. Really incredible editing here as well. As things get more and more chaotic, the psychological elements get more chaotic as the sub is filling in with blood. There are all kinds of crazy different shots here and there filling in. Here's blood coming in this way, blood coming in this way. The convict is trying to deal with this stuff, and blood is swaying in this way. Just to me as an editor, cutting between all those different bits and pieces, cutting between all these different shots that are filling in, this disaster is happening, and blood is filling up, to try to cut everything together to look sequential and not look too chaotic or crazy or lose track of things. A really big hats off to the editing team and to Markiplier for holding the vision together and holding the ideas together and constructing all these crazy different sequences together. The Iron Lung game mechanics and lore make up about 30 or 40% of this movie and its story, and really the rest of it, the biggest and most blown out portions of the movie, I think are from Markiplier's own vision of fleshing out his character more, adding more stuff to his background, adding more stuff to kind of the main character of the game's background, what might be going on in the submersible, what might have going on in the background with the Quiet Rapture. So mostly original content with the story. And finishing here with, good luck, have fun, don't die. So the trailer for this looked very fun and very entertaining. This idea of AI zombies, some AI action sequences, and maybe taking down these AI entities, these AI zombie elements that are going on in the movie. It looks really, really fun to me. Gore Verbinski can bring on some really cool action sequences and very cool visual effects aspects to a movie. And Sam Rockwell. I love Sam Rockwell. He's one of my favorite actors. To see him kind of in this lead role wearing the crazy jacket going on, and he's like, I'm from the future, the world is about to end, society is about to end as we know it, we must take down these AI entities in order to save society. He's just pumped up and very invested and charismatic about his big cause. So I was really excited for this movie, but it seems that I'm in the minority and that I didn't enjoy this movie very much. I saw some reviews from people that this was their favorite movie from Fantastic Fest. This just didn't click that well for me. It just didn't work that well for me. A lot of the humor didn't work that well for me. This movie felt very long. This very long and drawn out story. It's a very interesting and intriguing idea of Sam Rockwell just playing this guy who came back in time from this society that's kind of on, I think, society that had already been destroyed by an AI entity, or kind of on the brink of being destroyed of an AI entity. He runs into this diner as shown in the trailer, brings these unlikely people along on this mission to kind of zip around his way through town, kind of avoiding some AI antagonists here along the way to try to stop essentially a 9-year-old who is in this house somewhere in town, who is just an hour or so away from like typing on his keys, hitting enter, and then setting loose this powerful AI entity to completely take over people all over the world and destroy and break down society as we know it under these AI powers. Which on paper and from the trailer seemed like a really fun and crazy idea of like an AI 21st century technology based World War Z type of movie. Maybe Brad Pitt would also be a really cool addition to this movie, but something about it, just the humor, the dark humor and the weird and cringy entertaining bits in this movie just didn't work too well for me. A major driving force of this movie is not only are most people around the world hooked and connected directly to their phones and really can't look away or do anything else, but the sort of the driving principle is that youth, teenagers, and young people are primarily the ones literally hooked on their phones. Their eyes are glued on their phones. Things are happening on their phones all the time. They're interacting with different AI stuff and different programs on their phone, and that playing the significant antagonist in the movie, or the significant like henchman in the movie that keeps surrounding Sam Rockwell's character. These AI-induced and hooked on zombie teenagers are just throughout the movie being shown tracking down this team and antagonizing them at different terms. Could be kind of fun and could be entertaining if that's really all they are. Like, okay, we have these teenagers that are hooked on their phones and kind of a haha kind of idea, locked in by this AI entity, and they are the zombies. But the movie kind of really sinks into this idea that youth are in danger, that youth are constantly in danger of being hooked on their phones, of being hooked on different AI entities in these different programs. What could have been a kind of a funny, comical, antagonistic force in the movie is I felt like really dragged out into this overblown cautionary tale of being hooked on AI and being hooked on technology that youth particularly are being way too hooked on and drawn onto their phones. It felt like it was constantly drawn out, that anytime these horde of AI zombie teenagers was in the movie felt like another example, another cautionary tale of youth being hooked on their phones and hooked on technology. And there are many instances where the dark humor in this movie just didn't work that well for me. It just made me feel uneasy and uncomfortable and a little bit insulted intellectually by the movie. One instance where one supporting character loses their child in a shooting, then consults with an organization that promises it can take the deceased person's DNA and replicate it into an almost identical clone version of that deceased person, essentially bring it back to life, quote unquote, but not really. And so this mother consults the organization, and the broker, the guy who consults with her, then kind of goes over the traits that, what was your child like? What were some quirks? What were the negative things about your child? Just the consultation that the person from this organization with the mother was just very weird, very uneasy. I've heard that many people have laughed at that scene, enjoy kind of the dark humor in that scene. It just didn't work that well for me. I was very uncomfortable. Like, this movie just needs to move along. The pacing is kind of slowing down into this uneasy, uneven, and kind of uncomfortable way for me. And the movie does that breakdown with, I think, 3 or 4 characters. This kind of a whole. I appreciated kind of the backstory breakdown of kind of the 3 or 4 significant characters in Sam Rockwell's team, but the backstories were really drawn out. A lot of awkward and weird dark humor moments going on with each character's backstory. Each backstory felt like a separate act or a different significant portion of the movie, which then bloated the movie out, dragged the movie out more. I think Sam Rockwell was the best part of this movie, the best performance in this movie, kind of rooting down to his silliness and quippiness. Sam Rockwell carried the movie very well for me, and I was able to hold well to his character, his sense of humor, his mission, the different things that he was trying to do, and kind of the time travel strategy that he had throughout the movie, the quippiness that he had. So his acting ability and his personality and what he was bringing to the character worked very well for me throughout the movie. And those are my ticket stubs. Let me know in the comments what movies you've seen so far this year. If I've seen any movies up there that you also watched, let me know what you thought of those movies, or if there's a title I didn't mention here that's maybe something new, something that most people aren't talking about that's kind of overshadowed. Let me know in the comments. Let's watch something new and tell me something new I can watch. More videos coming soon, so until later, support independent films and the movies you want more of.